Niggas is back, and niggas is back, and niggas is black. This is a special edition of the Black Rasslin Podcast, where, as always, we give you wrestling from a nigga perspective. It's your boy Cal, representing RockTheDub.com, but you already know. Fam is on the line. Fam, say what's good to the people. Say what's good to the people.
Your IlFam79 on your social media choice, a.k.a. Good News Brown.
There you go. There you go. Now, I said this is a special edition because we have a very special guest. We have an actual champion on the line.
Champion.
This is Black excellence in the building. We're talking about the first ever Pan-African World Diaspora Wrestling Champion. Is that a heavyweight championship? Is that in the title? It is
pretty heavy.
Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Trish Adora. She's going to be taking on Queen Aminata this weekend at Generation Championship Wrestling's Indiana Invasion.
Oh, wow.
Defending that big piece of gold and leather and whatever makes up that beautiful belt. Trish Adora, welcome to the Black Rasslin Podcast. How are you feeling leading into this match? Because that belt is gorgeous. I know you don't want to give that thing up.
Oh my gosh, from my cold dead hands, honestly. It's such a beautiful belt, and I'm very honored to have it. I'm very honored to be the first champion. I'm very honored that, the universe chose me to carry this. I'm ready to bear this flag. So,
right.
And I'm going to keep bearing the flag. I would consider myself a standard bearer amongst the independent wrestlers, amongst Black independent wrestlers, and that's going to keep going.
100%. I mean, it's a huge thing because I remember that tournament. You were the only woman in that tournament. And I think it's a huge deal to be not just the first bearer of that title, but to be a woman. It's a huge statement. It's a huge honor. It's I don't want to say it sucks, but dare I say it's unfortunate that you won the title and then the world kind of shut down. You know what I mean? You've kind of had to. I heard you've been wrestling. I know you've been doing some dates, but to be sitting out 6 months, 5-6 months for the most part, it's had to have kind of like been like a weird blow to winning a title like that.
Yeah, it has been quite a blow. I was definitely in somewhat of a transitional period in my career. Anyway, at that time, I do still feel like that is the case. I do still feel like things are just continually growing and evolving. But at that stage, for that to happen that night was huge to me, especially in my hometown. It was really dope to do. My mom was there. It was really awesome to do in front of my family. And just doing that and just trying to keep that momentum up.
Mm-hmm.
And then with COVID happening, everything just kind of shut down. And so while still being in this transitional period, I've been kind of forced to kind of figure other ways out. So I'm definitely sharpening my game by continuing to train. So I'm not allowing the quarantine to just be, no time is really wasted time at the end of the day, but I would like to make the best use of my time. And I think that, safely, of course, within reason, depending on your state's guidelines and things like that, just trying to get training situated. I've been training at the Ring of Honor dojo for the past year under Jonathan Gresham. And then these past couple weeks since the, quarantine kind of messed everything up, I've just been kind of trying to reset and get retrained in a sense. So.
Gotcha. Right.
So really quick to start with the really in-depth and hard-hitting questions. Have you, before things got shut down, did you get a chance to wear that belt to a party, kind of like Martin did with the when he won that belt before he had to fight Tommy Hearns? Did you get a chance to wear that belt, like walk around with it?
No, I have. I've gone to the airport in it, and I didn't check my bag at the time, so I was wondering. I got all the way up to TSA, and I guess, I don't really know. I didn't know who to ask. So I was like, I was wondering if I can just bring this through. So when I opened it, they, TSA makes like a huge deal, and like one of the ladies walks me to my gate, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I was like, all right.
Well, champ, you walked you with the belt and that giant. It looked like you were curling when you picked it up. So yeah,
I know, right?
An ordeal over at BWI, 100%.
Yes.
So talk about the match. I mean, you guys. That match was announced a while ago, so there is anticipation for it, especially being the first major defense of the title. Talk about your mindset going into this match, both as the champion, but as well as just getting this large of a deal match, so far into waiting through COVID and everything.
Right. Momentum is just sort of everything. So it's all about just trying to make sure you keep traction. For me, when I go into my matches, I'm always looking for ways to become a better performer overall. This is going to be my first defense against a female competitor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited that it gets to be Queen Aminata at GCW, of course, and that's the place where I won my first title, my first ever title. I was their first women's champion,
Right.
So it's kind of like a full circle moment for me somewhat. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of look at it as I plan to go into it to learn, to grow, and to win. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm planning to do.
Okay. Well, I mean, with this title, I know it's a situation where it's kind of like take on all comers. You have the belt and you'll go anywhere. It makes me think of the territory days where Ric Flair had the world title and he was going everywhere. Like, have you thought about what Trish might do, popping up on the ramp at like AEW, or like do you have those dreams, or you just kind of whoever wants to start popping something off on Instagram, you ready?
Well, there's a process or a pecking order to it, I believe. My main goal is to make sure that I elevate the title, make sure the title elevates me, and make sure that I elevate my community and people like me. That is what's most important. That is what I'm thinking of when I look at this title every night before I go to sleep. That's what's getting me pumped up in the morning to get out and motivate myself and get things done, is that. So for me, it's a matter of I am willing to accept all challenges.
Right.
Of any gender, from any promotion.
There you go.
On TV. Not on TV. It matters, look. It matters not to me. It matters not to
everybody. Now you talk about getting pumped up and motivated. First, is there a different mind state you have to go to when you're going into the ring? And do you use like music? And if so, what would you listen to before you going out in that ring? You know what I'm saying? Is it are you throwing on some Dipset before you go out there and really, you know what I mean? You throwing on some Dead Prez. What are you going out there and rocking before you go out there?
I do listen to a lot of Jay-Z.
Okay.
It gets me in the right mindset. I want to, just sort of embody some of those things that I hear, definitely Bam featuring Damian Marley and the whole 444 album. It's just so good. It gets me exactly where I need to be because, it pumps me up in a way that I don't start to like overcloud my brain and start to like, I'm nice and calm.
Right.
It's like I don't go into it like how I used to. There's a little bit of growth in how I look at my matches and how I go into it. I would feel as though sometimes I would be rushing or just feel as though I would be coming into it very, very erratic, and just being able to take that step back and just reassure myself and stand in my own confidence. It's a great place to stand,
Right.
So,
right.
I just step back, stand in my own confidence,
Well, because I know you started training. It's been about 5 years. I guess we're going on 6. The turn of the year. But when did you feel was it recently where you could really say, hey, I'm really putting on the match that I feel like I went out there to do. I set out to do.
Well, I feel as though each time I'm gonna kind of want to do better. So there's never really I'm always kind of starving for more. But there have been several times along the way where I know I'm in a good spot. It's kind of like almost a video game checkpoint, somewhat. And so it's like, all right, now we officially cleared this part. Cool. And we're heading in this direction, So it's like, it's moving down to Florida, training at Team 3D in Florida. Then it's finally started to work, around Central Florida and some of the Florida local indies. And then, just deciding, okay, it was time for a change, moving to DC. It's like those little checkpoints like that. Each time there was always like some sort of reassurance inside me that, okay, this is the right compass. I've got it pointed in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? And there was some missteps, of course, along the way, just trying to figure myself out and what I was doing. But lately, I've just been, those days are far and few in between. And I'm not so like bunched up and so nervous. And now all of a sudden it's like I'm getting into a nice even flow where I understand the performer that I need to be a little bit better each day, a little bit better each time. And honestly, I can accredit that to this championship. This championship has honestly, like, it saved my life. It really changed. It helped change my mindset. It's helped me. This may not even make sense, but it's helped me trust people. It was always very hard to do, growing up, and just, a matter of my own, path to get here.
Got you.
So
you're saying that in general, trusting people, or like specifically within the industry?
Specifically within the industry. Gotcha. And I mean, it kind of radiates throughout life too. Those kinds of things, when those good things are happening inside you, you can never just kind of keep it closed. It starts to like permeate other things in your life too. So once I started to just become happier with wrestling, it just kind of trickled out into elsewhere. But yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's an interesting segue into, I mean, you mentioned being happy with wrestling. I'm assuming you're speaking more personally in what, your path, but what are your thoughts on pro wrestling as a whole? I mean, we're in an interesting time where not only can, you can have a whole movement that's not on TV at all, especially, you're proof positive of that, but there are two factions going back and forth every week on TV. What are your thoughts on just where wrestling is right now in 2020?
I could just get a pen and a piece of paper.
I know that's a lot. I know it's a lot.
I should have started writing the minute you started. No, but there's so many little pieces of that too. There's like the state of the independence, and then there's everything with the speaking out movement, and then with the Black Lives Matter movement, and how things outside of the world really just kind of affect the wrestling world too. There's just always so much going on, and it always kind of permeates into wrestling and everything, and especially with like the whole speaking out movement and everything starting to like shift, and with a spotlight being put on, Black wrestlers, reasons aside, I'm happy to have it, and I'm proud to run with that ball either way, and I know a lot of people are the same way. They feel the same way. So there's just a lot going on. There's protests going on. There's, there's COVID going on, which changes the scale of the shows we can all compete for. Because, we're all somewhat competing for the jobs, right? So, and it just scaled down, now we're competing for less jobs, and now it's COVID. And that alone has weeded out, so many good wrestlers, so many people who were like it's one big bottleneck now, and so there's that. And then there's the state of like competition between certain brands, and there's a lot going on. There's like certain criticisms of certain athletes and things like that. A whole nother headache.
It's been interesting, because like one name that came up in the news over the last couple of months has been Naomi, and so it's funny to hear the conversation. I remember specifically seeing people on Twitter talking about what she has to earn, as if she, wasn't, a champion of a whole brand twice in like fairly recent history. But I mean, like people champion her because she's one of few, and it's sad that you can count the black folk on each hand. In general, you can count how many people there are on you just using two hands. It's crazy. But like, what are your thoughts specifically about the lack of Black women on the active rosters at both WWE and AEW, the most visual places for pro wrestling for people?
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a life imitating art, or is it the art imitating? It's like, what came first? Are we putting just a few women there? Because if you think about it, if you have 10 slots, and it's like, how do you spread that out amongst? And is that if we only see the precedent of there being one at a time, if we only see that, then people on the independents who would like to have that job maybe are also holding that true. and it's not always, you know? So it's like you're really kind of changing the rubric or the grading scale that we all have, you know? And I always kind of thought of it that way. And I was like, well, there's more than one job, you know, and there's more than one Black person can do any one thing at any one time in any one company. There can be a few. There can be several operating at once. And no, they will not get us confused. No, they will not mess up our names. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you probably should give people a little more credit than that. And I don't know what would be holding people back from wanting a fairer representation for people that have earned it at this point. I don't believe that personally. I don't believe that there's much else for her to earn. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just me. I don't know. That's just way from the outside. I'm from the parking lot looking in. You know, who's to say? But
but no, that's real. That's real, and I can see because from the outside of the outside looking in, I can imagine that quite a few people who have with the current climate got more and more comfortable giving you advice. Oh, you should do A, you should do B, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. So I'll ask you this: what's the best and worst pieces of advice you've ever received as far as the industry goes?
Oh, I kind of drew a little bit of okay. Some of the best advice I got was to continue to make sure that I was doing right first. You know what I'm saying? It's to make sure that I was getting my stuff done first. A lot of times people want to pour into other cups, but as you pour into the cup, you're left with less. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be like an ecosystem of people pouring into each other. And that's what's going to make this journey easier. If you can find some like-minded people, lean in and, you know, get your hustle on, get these bookings, get yourselves together and stuff like that. A lot of fruitful things can happen. And that just goes back to that whole trust thing that I was saying a little bit earlier too, and how it's hard to want to include people sometimes in your circle because you understand what you're capable of and you want to make sure that the people that you allow into your ecosystem are also on the same wave. Otherwise, you know, you might be swirling around for a little while. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants that, you know? So that bit of advice was really important for me to hear, especially I got that advice fairly recently, actually, maybe like a week ago. So it was just something that really rang true nowadays. That I see there's some differences in how, you know, I see things are moving a little bit differently around me, and I understand what needs to be done. And I've always understood what needs to be done, and I'm going to keep doing what needs to be done. And to hear that from, you know, someone that I respect, Jonathan Gresham is the one who told me, he is somebody that I respect, you know, according to a lot of Black wrestlers, he's like the Bible, you know what I mean? Somewhat, you know, and not even to be too literal, you know, kind of say when I say that. Okay, just so nobody's, you know, but, you know, just an example of somebody who is, you know, as close to doing it right as possible. Finger quote, finger quote. You know what I'm saying? But it's like to have somebody that you respect and, you know, a style that you hope to emulate and pay honor and respect to hear them say that you're on the right track and know you're not crazy and it's going to be all right if you keep at where you're at. You know what I'm saying? And things like that, they don't have to say. There'd be so many times where like afterwards, you know, after your match, you're getting ready. Hey, what'd you think of that? Oh, it was great. You're awesome. You're number one. Yeah, you're dope as fuck. Yeah. Excuse me. Excuse my language. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
But but yeah, there's so many times where people are just like, yeah, you're doing awesome. They have no incentive to pull you aside. They have no incentive to be like, hey, you know, you got potential, blah, 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 you know. And a lot of times, on the other foot, people aren't even receptive when somebody hears, you know, when somebody says that. Sometimes people are so wrapped up in, I don't know, whatever they're wrapped up in, that they can't understand, you know, constructive criticism. So on either side, I learned how to continue to take whatever criticisms and I think that piece of advice was probably the most important thing. It came at the right time. I needed to hear it right then and there, you know?
Mm.
You know how sometimes in the karate movies, how the sensei will say something and it won't make sense because the guy's still fucking
Right.
up, you know, and then mid battle, he's got that one punch coming in and all of a sudden it makes sense and there's this big
Yeah.
flashback moment, you know, it's just all of that, you know, that's what it was exactly what I needed to hear right at the time that I needed to hear it. So
Gotcha.
that was
Gotcha.
good advice. But I
Is
didn't answer the other
I'm
side.
sorry. I'm
Sorry, I got
sorry.
the
I'm
words.
sorry. My bad.
Honestly, I don't think that. I feel like what would make the advice worse advice would be. I feel like it depends on a lot of things. Oh, geez, I don't want to be like it depends on who says it and how they say it. I don't want to say it like that.
Hey,
But
hey.
yeah, you know. But it's like I think that worse advice would do you more of a disservice depending on who it's coming from. Maybe I'll just word it like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just gonna let that
That's
rock.
well, that's. I mean, and that kind of blends into what I was gonna ask. I was wondering, like, do you have certain group chats for like, you know, is there like an indie wrestlers group chat? Is there like a black and white? I mean, a black men and women indie chat? Is there like just a black women indie chat? Like, you know, who are you talking? I mean, you mentioned Jonathan Grisham, but like, you know, are you talking to a lot of people who are kind of more on the indie scene, or are you in communication with people like Swole? Do you have commentary with Naomi, especially against someone who's risen to, you know, the same, you know, status you have in terms of being a heavyweight champion? You know, who are you conversating with when it comes to pro wrestling on the black side?
Um, you know, that is so interesting. I was just having a conversation earlier this morning. I was talking to Timmy Lee Retton actually, and we were chatting about like the ecosystem and you know those like-minded individuals. Um,
Right.
it's just interesting because for me, since I started wrestling, I was always just in a weird spot where there was a group of people ahead of me and a group of people coming up behind me. So I never really got to like gravitate or have a group. I was always just kind of a loner by trade anyway. Uh, so it's just kind of like that's kind of how not how I operate on purpose, but it just
Right.
kind of happened this way. Um, so there aren't a lot of people that I talk to,
Okay.
but I think that it's more or less the quality of the people that you talk to. So I think that, you know, having people like Jonathan Gresham and Timmy Lou Retton and, you know, Sugar Dunkerton, you know,
There
he's
you
cool.
go.
So just having like a nice group of people that you speak to consistently that, you know, that have your back, you can bounce ideas off of and things like that. And you'll never feel like you're in competition.
Right.
That's the key part to the group. There are a lot of you know, just by the nature of wrestling, we're competing for these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And there can only be one or whatever, right? So they just got us all thinking that we can't all eat. So
Right.
sometimes, you know, you get in these dynamics and sometimes there's just, you know, jealousy's involved. I mean, look, we're emotional, we're all, you know, adults. It's how it goes sometimes, you know. But it's just important to like check that and it's even easier to check that when you're surrounded by other people that are filling you. You know what I'm saying? As
Gotcha.
you know, pour into them and you can all pour into each other.
Mm.
So, as far as group chats, I'm not in any group chats. I kind of just, you know, do my own thing. I kind of chill.
Yeah.
I keep a super low profile, you know. I
Probably
try to
better that way.
pour.
Probably better that way.
Yeah, but I pour a lot of my energy into a lot of things that I'm doing outside of wrestling too, because it's important to kind of grow those things at the same time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's in my opinion. I don't know. Other
Gotcha.
people, you know.
What kind of stuff do you get into outside of pro wrestling?
Well, let's see. I do find myself working out a lot. My capoeira studio is closed, so I haven't been able to do that for a little bit.
Okay.
I do train in ring. Let's see. I'm usually traveling around for shows as safely as possible. You know, I'm trying not to take too many unnecessary risks, you know.
Right.
I like to read, I like to write, a little bit of drawing. I'm trying to get my sewing hands back, but it's kind of a bend to the fingers that I've missed for a while. So
Right.
I'm trying to get, you know, back into sewing and things like that. I do a lot of makeup for therapy and things like that. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of handy stuff, but stuff that isn't going to have you rolling around on a mat for.
What is? I'm sorry. What is makeup for therapy?
Here you.
Yeah. So.
I mean.
So yeah, like therapeutic purposes, right? So it's just there's a couple of like YouTube channels and stuff dedicated to people that do makeup for as forms of therapy, right? So it's just the same as people who play basketball for therapy, or for people that listen to, you know, the 444 album for therapy. You know, it's just kind of like that. So a lot of the times it involves like picking out some of your favorite pieces, you know, like if I was depressed and I wanted to, or if I wasn't feeling, let me word this correctly. If I wasn't feeling like myself one day and I needed a little pick me up, I would, and I wanted to, you know, do my makeup. You know, maybe I wasn't even going anywhere. Maybe I just wanted to sit around. I would get all my favorite things. I would set it up like that and kind of just do my makeup for therapy. What I would do is I would film it and, you know, try to edit it. You know, I'm not a good editor or whatever, but, you know, and just kind of watch the video and do like a voiceover and just kind of do affirmations and things like that, you know, stuff like that. So I'm watching myself do something, you know, I'm accomplishing a goal, you know, I look really cool, you know, maybe I got a new palette, or, you know, just like a new, you know, tub of glitter that I just wanted to play with, you know, and I just wasn't feeling like myself and I needed a little something, something. So that's kind of like, you know, makeup for therapy.
So me and Cal gonna start a whole YouTube channel. Shaving your head for bald niggas is therapy.
Okay.
Like,
There you go.
hey, you don't need no hair. It doesn't matter if your hairline.
Let's go, right?
I need those pick-me-ups too. I need some affirmations too about the loss of my hair. You're right about
after that third or fourth OG in the office, you know what I'm saying? You get a little self-conscious. So what? I'm bald. So what?
I'm not that old. Damn. Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you on that. I wanted to take it back, Trish, because I'd seen that in past interviews you'd mentioned that like one of your dream matches would be with a Trish Stratus, but I'd also seen that you had mentioned that when it seems like your first run-ins with pro wrestling were watching it with your father and, you know, your brothers. But I was wondering, were they watching WWF and Trish Stratus is one of the first people you were seeing, or I know you're from DC? Were you guys watching WCW? Was it more Southern based? Like what were you into?
Yeah, some of my earliest wrestling memories are like WCW. You know, we definitely flipped on, you know, Monday, Thursday. You know, we were flippers, so we channel flip. But some of my earliest memories were just seeing like Nitro Girls and hearing the sound of that ring and seeing like the smoke come through.
Okay.
And, you know, seeing, you know, Sting in the rafters and all that type of stuff. So those were some of my like earlier memories of wrestling as I began to just watch it on my own. And kind of as I grew up, I kind of understood what I was watching as I grew up. Because when you're a kid, you're like, what are these people doing? And then one day you're like, okay, this is the bad guy. And then one day you're just starting to understand it a little bit more. And so I was watching Jacqueline and Crash Holly wrestle. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, well, then I'm just going to be a wrestler. It's settled. That's fine. There we go. There it is. You know, I always loved watching, you know, Jazz and Jacqueline. I just thought it was so cool that I thought that women doing this in general were like super cool. Like seeing like Trish, Lita, China, they were all so different too. And they were all able to like have their own lane. You know what I mean? And it was so cool to see growing up and to see Black women out there doing it. I thought that was so awesome, you know? And I have 5 brothers. So I was knocking them around too. So to see her, you know, to see her like do some of those things and wrestle men, I was like, what? That's awesome. That's so cool. She looked and she was beautiful too. She always looked so cool, so in control. Just
it's almost like representation matters. You know what I mean? Like, you know, being able to see yourself doing things can turn into, you know, whole careers and you know, life changes for people. It's weird how that happens, America. Hopefully we could figure that out. You know?
I know, right?
So you're from the area. There are 2 legendary arenas near where you're from. of course, in Baltimore, the Baltimore Arena, Starcades, and Great American Bashes.
Right.
But also, I know my personal first experience with live pro wrestling was at the Capitol Center. Did you ever get a chance to kind of make it there and see some events there?
Actually, yes. This is so funny you even brought that up. Johnny Cross, the founder of Fight Club Pro Wrestling and the initial creator of the Pan African World Diaspora title, we were in the Army together, and that's how we met. One day we were like just kind of sitting around, and they were like, "Hey, they got tickets to go to a house show in the area. Y'all can sit up front, but just don't act too, they're like, just don't get too whatever. Just be chill. You sit up front, whatever. So me and him were like some of the only people that raised our hands, and that's when we were like, hey, and then we was just kind of like, hey, wrestling. It was really cool. It was a cool night, and we ended up going to the Verizon Center, Capital One, MCI Center, but it's a throwback, but yeah, we ended up going there, and that's when I was like, okay, this is cool. And it was interesting too, because he was one of the first people that I met as an adult that wasn't ashamed to say that they liked wrestling. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. I'm like, okay, you're cool. You don't give a fuck. All right, bet. Me neither. This is cool. Whatever. I think it's cool. Oh, well. And,
I'm good. Outside of your family, you didn't really have a lot of friends who were into pro wrestling growing up?
Well, growing up, everybody's like, yeah, wrestling, this is cool. I remember being in middle school and being like, we're all going to be wrestlers. You know what I mean? And then everybody's like, yeah. And we had no idea, you don't know what it takes to even, you don't even know what the fuck it, excuse me. You don't even know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
You could have thrown two fucks in there. We don't care. You good. You good.
I think that's what we don't give. I
Can't give that, but
facts. So, but when, like, if you grow up a wrestling fan, you don't have a lot of people that you interact with in wrestling. Like, 2015, what was it that said that made you say, hey, let me go to a school, let me figure out how to get in the ring and actually do this?
Yeah. So, let's see, I deployed in 2012. Me and Johnny deployed together. So, when we deployed together, I was just kind of I got in a more, I want to pick my words correctly, because I got in a more, I found myself being a little more agitated than normal. I've realized that I wasn't honest with myself about why I joined the Army. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, it was, look, it was a lot of people's stories, at the time I was 19, I'd failed out of college, and coming from like a poor Black household, it's like, well, if you're not if you ain't gonna play ball or get no degree, it's like, you're gonna join the military. It's like, those were your options as far as making something of your life. You're either gonna go to school, you're either gonna be famous, maybe play a sport or something, I don't know, or join the military, And it was just like, I ain't trying to get crossed up in front of the world, so let me just go ahead.
To Barry Farms for that. Close to Barry Farms for all that.
I'd never be able to live that down. Oh my gosh, no. But so I was like, okay, cool. And over time, being so young and putting myself in a very adult situation, especially having such a sheltered childhood and just not really understanding what I signed up for, it really kind of soured on me, just over time. And so around 2012, I was just kind of like, towards the end of the deployment, I was like, all right, man, I'm all set. It's just like one day you make the decision and you're just like, all right, this is okay. I understand what was supposed to happen here. I don't have, I'm trying not to be one of those vets that's, I'm not particularly anti-America nor anti-military. I am extremely hard on America and the military. And
a lot of that is passion for your love for America,
Right. Yes. And, and before joining the military, I didn't really understand what that meant. And then afterwards, I had a very clear idea of what that meant. And I was like, okay.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, no, but so let's see. It was October 2015,
Mhm.
where I was like, all right, everything is getting all signed off on and just trying to like just start the whole process. Um, let's see. It was actually, or excuse me, it was October 2014
Okay.
is when everything just kind of got, I'm like, all right, getting everything situated, cool. Like 3 days later, once the ink dried, I rented a car. I had $2,000 in savings, cleared out my savings, and I packed up everything I had. And I was like, all right, Mom, I'm going to go be a wrestler. I'll see you later. She's like, what? And I see you, bye, bye, bye. You know, they just drive off. I'm going to Florida. I want to be a wrestler. Oh, no,
Yeah.
you know, but funny enough, I wasn't initially gonna sorry if I'm rambling, but
No,
I
you're fine.
wasn't
You're fine.
initially gonna go to Team 3D Academy. I didn't even, you know, gosh, I don't know how many times I told this story. I don't know. It's gonna be the last time. All right, last time. So, last time. So I know. I'm probably gonna say it about 2 or 3 more times
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of an accepted fact amongst everybody. But so I moved down to Florida, and I was gonna go to another wrestling school, but it was 2,000 down, 250 a month for like a year or something like that. And I was like,
Wow.
that's all I came down here with. I can't give it all to you
Right.
because I just spent almost all of it trying to figure out where I'm gonna stay for these weeks, and it has not been good. So it was just kind of like I came down there with all this fire and all my money, and then one day I looked down, very soon actually after I got there, I looked down and all the money's gone. You know, I had to go give the rental car back, and I didn't have anywhere to stay, and I wasn't in a wrestling school like I originally planned, and now I'm in the middle of Florida.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I just felt like super lost, and I was too embarrassed to go back home. You know, there was no way. Oh, there was no way. I couldn't face anybody back home if I was like, well, didn't work out. See ya. You know, and oh man, and it was the worst too. Whenever you call your family and be like, you know, oh, today's a little rough. Well, you can always come on home. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
stop. You know, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see this through. I'm sorry. You know, but it's like I don't know.
What?
I feel like I rambled. Did I answer the question?
No, I think I was wondering what's your family feel like now? I mean, you go from being a fan who, you know, they might feel you want to get out of here, and they're ready for you to get out of there if you want, and now you know you are a champion. Like, what's that situation like when you call home now?
Yeah, so you know, I've been back home for a little bit. I'm back in DC now.
Gotcha.
So it's been really interesting just being able to it's okay. So earlier in my career, my mom came down to Florida and watched me wrestle. And, you know, I was happy for her to be there and things like that. But the Pan African tournament in DC, it was another chance for her to see me. And I felt like that was the full circle moment. That's
Right.
when I was like, this is what I've been working on all this time. This is why, I'm only working a job Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm out doing a wrestling loop, God knows where,
Yeah.
and then come back home to do it all over again, working like 5 a.m. to noon and then train from 2 to 10 and then do your loops that weekend. And it's like, you keep that grind going and nobody really, I don't know, people don't really understand. It's a vibe you got to get into and a flow you got to get, your grind going. And yeah, I just leaned into it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You also
They came
mentioned
around.
that's what's up. No, that's what's up. You also mentioned going to the military. I wish Math was here because Math's a vegetarian, and he wanted to specifically have you speak about vegetarian MREs.
They're good.
Yeah.
Vegetarian MREs are good. Those are some of the best ones. Like, okay, right now, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you ever get cheese tortellini, it is so good right now. Usually, see, here's the best part, right? So the vegetarian MREs try to make up for the fact that there's no meat in it. So they'll either give you like some fun piece of candy, like you'll either get peanut M&Ms, which are fun pieces of candy in the military, or milk chocolate M&Ms, or a pack of Skittles. If you are lucky and you get a pack of sour Skittles, you're the man on campus. Like you did it. Like you won. You gonna hold on to that Skittles and you will barter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Kind of like prison.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't it? No, just kidding.
I don't know. I've never been either place.
Yeah, right. That's what I saw on TV anyway. Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
But vegetarian MREs are some of the best ones. The cheese tortellini one specifically is perfect.
Damn, I don't know if I guess if I have a chance to try, I'll try. I mean, MREs, it's not something I should just order up and try and eat anyway, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's very like, all right. You know?
Yeah, dude. Let me get through this so I can be, full and satiated. Yeah. Do you, as a pro wrestler and someone who's been a fan of the sport since a child, I was wondering what are some of your favorite matches of all time? Do you have like a top 3 or a top 5 that you rattle off?
So that kind of, well, it's not hard. I actually have a nice little YouTube playlist of a couple matches,
Nice.
that I kind of keep cycling through and going back to. When I was younger, the matches it was more like Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. It was very about the larger than life moment of the match sometimes. How I loved just getting swept up. And it was kind of one of the things that I liked growing up, those larger than life characters. You see Ultimate Warrior just like running down on the ring. You're like, where's this guy going?
Right. Yeah.
You just get so caught up in just the excitement of it all. So when I was younger, I liked, those types of, and I mean, look, they're all great matches, right?
Right.
But I'm not saying anybody is bad or nothing. But I've been kind of watching matches and making them my favorite because either there's something inside that match that I would like, maybe just, which can still include those other matches, just like Jonathan Gresham, Chris LaRusso, you know what I'm saying? Or Super Indy 16, Adam Cole, John Gresham. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like watching those matches, and they make you feel something when you're watching them. They are quite relatively simple in nature. I've been watching even like older stuff, like watching some World of Sport, just kind of really getting into that. Those are like just some captivating matches, and just that style anyway, and just the rules of World of Sport. Those matches stand out to me, seeing like Robbie Brookside and seeing like Johnny Saint, and it's like, that's exciting to me, as someone who now has to do it. It kind of like the way I watch matches is a little bit different. So I find that I'm sort of chasing that feeling. I'm chasing the more simplistic, style, So those are some favorites of mine.
Real simplistic, but real impactful, real like just determined strikes, not just, swinging for no reason.
Yes, absolutely. And, honestly, Timothy Thatcher versus Daniel Makabe is top notch. It's, I mean, just watching that, sometimes just watching one match, wrestling as a whole makes more sense to you. And I'm just like, now, I swear, if anybody watches a match of mine and it changed, you know what I mean? Oh, man, that would feel like a victory to me. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And that would feel like a positive impact. So just seeing matches like that.
Are there any matches at Indiana Invasion that you're looking forward to being in Gorilla? Looking at from the back.
There's a lot of really good ones. We got so I was over at Hood Slam I had maybe about a 8 to 9 month tour back and forth going Hood Slam back when they were up and going before COVID hit. So I got to meet Funny Bone, and he's awesome, and just seeing them versus the Gymnasty Boys, I think that's going to be awesome. Him and Super Beast, they are they took me in somewhat when I was over in Cali. They were very kind to me. I was kind of an outsider. I mean, I'm not saying this like off no East Coast West Coast rap or nothing like that, but you just kind of, when you're into a new locker room, it's just kind of like, ooh, sometimes you're trying to make room somewhat. But they made that easier on me. So I'm like, now that they're somewhat in my neck of the woods, it's like, okay, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be right there to see what they got, cheering them on, of course, against the gymnastic boys who are like, I mean, look,
Word,
they're on fire, they're everywhere, and they're just there are no missteps in sight, with them. So
definitely.
I'm really happy to be able to watch that.
That's dope. That'll be really dope. Are you do you have bookings outside of what's coming up with GCW this weekend? Or are you keeping those close to the chest right now? I know it's COVID season, but I know things are also opening up. So I'm wondering, how these pro wrestling shows are being affected as well.
Yeah. So as of right now, as it stands, I have GCW this weekend on the 26th. That is a title defense against Queen Aminata. And then after that, on I'm so excited for the collective, for the culture. It's going to be me versus Should D, and I'll be defending my title there as well.
Nice.
And I'm very, very excited to be working for GCW. That's going to be in Indiana.
Nice.
For the collective, there's a weekend,
Yes.
October 9th, 10th, 11th.
Gotcha.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It'll be like a row of shows. So
word.
Pretty exciting.
I think that's the joint Math was talking about driving to.
Right. He did mention taking a trip out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's like, well, we're gonna go. I'm like, bet, run it, let's go. No, I'm super pumped. Yeah. So that Friday I have for the culture, and that's gonna be a midnight show. So that's gonna be fun.
Wow.
I'm nice and wide open on Saturday. Just looking at freelance and looking at Shimmer, seeing what they got going on from the parking lot.
Right. Hey. From your lips to some promoters' ears, you know what I'm saying? So
look. And on the 11th, that's the Sunday, I have I'm debuting at Black Label Pro. Very excited about that.
That's
it's gonna be a very interesting, it's going to be a very telling weekend for me. There are going to be a lot of people that I respect, a lot of my peers and things are going to be there. So it's important that, the same way I can show up in DC, the same way I can show up in Cali, the same way I showed up in Japan and the UK, I need to bring that everywhere. And it's very important that weekend, especially for the culture. That match is, I want that to be like the chef's kiss of my career. You know what I mean? It's really where I'm beginning to come into my own. I feel it right now as I'm sitting right here right now. And it's only going to get worse. You know what I'm saying? I feel right now that I'm absolutely, plugged into what I have to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just excited to be able to even just, work with Suge. I respect him as a competitor. I respect his caliber of work. We cross paths in the UK. I consider him, he's a journeyman. I would call myself somewhat of a journeywoman, and we cross paths and we rub elbows ever so often, so to be able to see him work overseas and see him work all over and see him, on AEW, see him get all these like high profile things. I'm just excited to see that. And I want to see that I can match that. I want to see. I think I can, and let's see if I can match it.
Definitely.
So as like a representative of the DMV, right? The culture in the DMV is Capital Wrestling, which became what Vince Senior was doing. There's a heavy culture up the road, up to 95 in Baltimore. What do you think you guys are doing down at Fight Club for DC wrestling culture?
Yeah, so before COVID, right? This long list of plans. No, but we're really just trying to cycle in having a more regulated schedule, to have something that people are like looking forward to. And, just trying to decide whether that would have meant every month, every 2 months, every 90 days, and how to stretch that out. So just trying to make sure that you can put on at least like 4 shows a year or something like that, or whether or not, because, just working too with DC commissions offices, they don't make that easy. So, and I don't know why, if that's by design or on purpose, but they're not always just as agreeable and easy to try to like wrangle things around with. So it's just about continuing to secure a venue, up by Brookland Station. I don't want to, get too local, but, there was the local art center up there, and then there's, a local art center over by Deanwood, so just trying to see if we can like secure certain like local venues and continue to work like that. That's the first order of business. Trying to keep up with the momentum, honestly. That's so huge, and everybody feels like they just kind of got halted at once. So we're really just trying to make sure to continue to put on shows, preferably more frequent than every 3 months, just making sure the commission is, being agreeable. As of right now, there are no shows running in DC, so there's that. But when it comes back around, we'll have a better schedule. We'll try to secure a permanent ring and a permanent space, and maybe start training.
Okay, that's what's up.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the benefits with COVID. It's like if you have a dedicated group of people and a good idea, you can, at the very least, get the foundation going. So once the doors open, hit the ground running. I think it's kind of what we've been. A lot of the stuff you were mentioning about, your conversation with Jonathan Grisham and like-minded people. It's kind of I don't want to make this a podcast, but I feel like it's kind of, it feels very similar to what the three of us do, here, and especially, it being for the culture is really dope. I think one final question I was wondering, Trish, with both the match this weekend, but I guess more, in your eyes, maybe too, what you have going on in October. When it comes to ring entrances, someone who studied, WWE and WCW, are you thinking of, opening up how you're going to be coming to the ring? Are you going to be adding any new influences? Are you switching it up at all? Anything you can talk about?
Something with a pocket?
Something, I mean,
Well, there will, with almost certainty, I can say that I think that my gear will be ready by then.
Okay.
So definitely, to debut some new gear is always a good time. But as far as entrance goes, I'm just playing around with a few ideas for now. Just trying to see. I'm trying to hanker down some entrance music. A little while ago, I was coming out to Get By Talib Kweli with the Lion King Circle of Life intro. And I don't do that anymore because we don't listen to Talib Kweli around here. So
wow, yeah, talk about it.
Yeah. Oh well. But so
Red Essence just put a song out with Snoop Dogg. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, it's lit.
Red Essence and Snoop Dogg.
Okay. Look, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see what's good. I'll look it up. Yeah. But just trying to, I'm working with a couple people. I kind of got some ideas. I'm thinking about if I wanted to reuse old music or just kind of like, just see what I can do and how to move the needle as far as that goes. But I'm pretty pumped. Get me a little entrance jacket or something,
Yeah, for real. Spice it up a little bit. I mean, you should be pumped again. You're a heavyweight champion. You are representing, but when you get down to that ring, you got to represent. Trish, thank you for stopping by the Black Rasslin Podcast. For anybody that's scared out there, you can let them know that we don't bite. We just want to talk some good wrestling talk. You know what I'm saying? But can you please let the people know where they can find you on social media if they have not already?
What are you waiting for? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm at Trish Adora 202, and that's on like Twitter, Instagram. I have an athlete page on Facebook, and that's Around the Way Girl. So
okay,
I'm at all those places.
That's what's up. What about you, fam? Where can they find you?
Hey man, IlFam79 on your social media choice. And if you pick the right night, late night in your auntie refrigerator, and number my drawers and tube socks.
Terrible. An awful individual. I'm at Cal on Twitter, at Black Rasslin on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. BlackRasslin.com is the website, and as always, you can find the Black Rasslin Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. Once again, this is a special edition with the Pan-African World Diaspora Heavyweight Champion, Trish Adora. She's defending the title this weekend. I think you know who we're rooting for, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. GCW Indiana Invasion. We'll have to give you guys a recap of that. And just so you're clear, we will be dropping another episode this week, probably talking a lot about the great stuff that Trish spoke about here, but everything else that went on with wrestling as well. Until then, we'll catch you here. Peace.
Peace.